Hi, I'm Funkagenda and I'm going to be showing you how to build the progressive trance/house patch using Sylenth.
Half man, half drugs.
First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run you through like what everyone seemed to really enjoy on the last one when I did like some sound design and stuff. Obviously so much has happened like technologically you know, between now and then, and some of the synths that are sort of like rearing their head now are so amazing. So I figure I'll go through some of the new ones and some of the things that I favour. And also I'll go through some of the hardware with you because I never really touched on the Moog last time because it was kind of like new to me. Obviously I've spent a lot more time with it now, and it really is insane like just how good the sounds are that you can get out of it. We'll go through them all. So I'm sure pretty much everyone is aware of Sylenth, but what most people don't seem to realise, or you know, if the Beatport Top 10 is to be believed, you can actually make your own sounds on Sylenth. Like, you can actually make your own sounds. It's not just a load of presets that all sound the same. You can actually make your own sounds on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like, if you right click on the menu here and you'll see there's a thing that says initialize preset. Basically that that returns it to its initial state, which is just like a plain source synth. Let's turn that up. So you've got just like a basic source. So I don't like to use presets, even if there's a preset that's almost exactly what I want. I tend to just want to build things from scratch anyway, because for me, when I started being a producer, the exciting thing about using things like this and like the Voyager and stuff like that. Well, I mean, obviously it was the Mini Moog when I started out. But the exciting thing about using this was actually creating the sound. Was actually being able to sit here and turn the knobs and go, oh, that's what that does, and that's what this does, and you know, after you know 20-30 minutes of you know a real sort of precise knob twiddling, you come up with a sound that you'd never come up with before. Now pretty much like all the songs have been, all the sounds have been done, you know, like, but you can still do some pretty exciting things, and you know, everything, even the simple stuff like designing, you know, the big progressive house trance pads and stuff. There's still an art to it, and you know, presets, I feel like they guide you away from that, and you don't learn your equipment as well as you could. So we'll start off with that. Like, if you want to build one of those big trancey house leads, make sure you've got your waveform on your first oscillator set to saw. And then you can just ramp the voices up to 8. I'm just going to take the polyphony up to 16 as well, just so you can hear. Now what I do is I always knock the retrigger button off, because when you, basically what retrigger does is, like, you've got your oscillator is like, you know, it has like an up point, and then it comes back down, and it goes up, and then it comes back down. And when retrigger is set on, all of the oscillators, all 8 of these voices that you've turned on here, they all trigger at exactly the same time. So effectively what you do is you just get volume. Like, that will be louder than if you put like 1 on, because you're just overlaying exactly matched oscillators one on top of another. I always turn the retrigger off because I like the unpredictability. So you can hear, like now, they all start at slightly different times, and you get like a little bit of phase and stuff. The other reason that I do that will become apparent when I go to the detuning section. So what this does is, this knob here, the detune, selects how much each of these 8 voices is out of tune to each other. So like as you turn it, you notice the sound thickens up. So there they're really out of tune to one another, and there they're kind of not. You know, that's like that's about just under halfway is really good for trancey, you know, sort of stuff. So yeah, so basically like I start with that. That's a good, you know, if you're going to start, like, you know, if you want to play chords and stuff. But obviously it's not particularly thick and it's not particularly exciting or whatever. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the second oscillator also up. I'm going to put these on about 4 voices because this is going to be the lower end of the pad. We're going to again put this onto a saw wave. There we go. And then I'm just going to drop it an octave. So you can hear now that that's got like a lower register in it. And again, I'm going to detune it, but just not as far, because I'm like, if you put really detuned stuff at the bottom end, it creates a lot of phase and a lot of wobble in the bottom end of the track. And you know, if you speak to any professional engineer or like mix engineer or stuff, they say that like lower end sounds should be a lot thinner in the mix, if not mono, and the higher upper ended sounds is where you can put the real width in and stuff. So like, you know, kick drums can be mono and sub basses can be mono, and quite often like when you've got a rock band or whatever, like, you know, because the bass is actually a live bass, that'll be mono as well. We don't want to make this completely mono because obviously there's already going to be a kick and a bass under it. So, but I am going to take the detune down a little bit so that it's just got a little bit more girth. So yeah, so that's that bit, and then we're going to flip over onto part B, which has got another 2 oscillators. Again, I'm going to turn the re-trigger off. And I'm going to put a couple of voices on each side. Now these ones I'm going to leave in the upper register again that we're already in, so you can hear that's got quite loud straight away. And then you see you've got your little fine tune here. I'm going to knock this so it goes up to like 1. I'm going to knock this to about, say, 15 that way. Can we do 15? 20, let's do 20. And something similar that side. Let's go, yeah, minus 24. So what that'll do is that provides like another sort of level of unison. I'm going to pan 1 to one side, I'm going to pan 1 to the other. If that one is a sine wave, that's just... Just going to turn mix B down a little bit. So there we've got quite a good... That's kind of like uplifting. I always want to have like a little bit of release on it. In fact, what a good trick is if we go to the envelope on each thing and just turn it down so we've got nothing, just got like a little click. What I like to do is I like to set the decay first, and that's going to be like the punch of the sound. Because I like that, obviously, you know, when you listen to records like this, they tend to have an initial smack when the keys hit. And then I'll bring the sustain up so you can hear that. So you've got that extra. And then it's great, one of the great things about Sylenth is each section has got copy and paste knobs on it, so you can sort of like, you've got them there, you've got them for all the effects, and you've got them for the envelope. So I can copy that envelope exactly, jump over to part B, paste it in, and now you've got that for both sides. So we've got the basic big room trance lead, but obviously one of the things that really makes these sounds sound good is the effects. So I'm going to show you what I use personally to kind of like bigify these sort of sounds. I don't know necessarily if that's what everyone else uses, but you know, like I try to steer away from, you know, the same thing that everybody else does. You know, like I'd like to build these sounds myself, and that's why, because every time that I do it, I turn the knobs to a slightly different position, and every time that I do it, you know, I'll have the mix set at a slightly different level, or maybe I'll put an extra, you know, an extra upper level or something on the sound, and you know, you just find that it makes the randomness of those sounds coming out each time different each time. It's just something that's kind of refreshing. So first of all, I always use a little bit of distortion. I'm more into saturation type effects than I am into like actual distortion effects. So what I'll do is sometimes I use fold back. So I'm going to just put this on now, and then you'll hear what it does. You can hear like basically what it does is it's sort of like it's like a wave shaping kind of distortion, and as you apply it, you know, it sort of like it clips and it keeps everything flat. So one of the things it's good for is like actually evening the levels out, but you can hear it's too distorted. So what I do is I just have the mix kind of a little bit low, and then that decimated clipping sort of effect about there, it adds a nice sort of fizz to the sound. So bring it down a little bit. So it's, you can hear that it's there. It kind of like, you know, it's almost like adding white noise to the sound, basically. Like, you know, I know that a lot of producers do that too. I've just run out of oscillators, so I'm going to do it with this. But it's effectively the same sort of thing. If you look at this, at the waveform of a decimated signal, and you look at a white noise, it's all just like this. So, you know, I just like kind of mix a little bit of that in there, and it's kind of cool. So that's the first thing that I put on. The second thing that I put on is the EQ. The cool thing about Sylenth's EQ is when you're doing this kind of sound in particular, you don't really have to touch it. Like you'll see, this is the sound now. When I click the EQ, you have to excuse sometimes the button clicks take a little bit of a while, because I've got every single USB and every single Firewire port like full. So every time I'm doing everything, it's like a million things are kind of happening, but even if it's just turning something on. But you can hear straight away, it pushes the top end. It's kind of weird, you can't, there isn't a transparent EQ on here. Bless you. That's my dog killing your editor, by the way. Okay, yeah. So there isn't a transparent EQ on here. Basically, as soon as you turn it on, it's very much like the 3-band EQ on Ableton. It immediately colours the sound, but it kind of colours the sound in a nice way for these trancey. Like you get a lot of top end fizz, which wasn't there before, and also the bottom end kind of just comes up a little bit, but it is nice to sort of put a little bit extra in the bottom end. So I'm going to push around about 75 Hertz. I'm just going to take it up a little bit, just so that it's got a little bit of meat to it. And again, I'm just going to push the treble just slightly, not much because it's pretty trebly already. So So yeah, you can hear that's kind of nice. And then obviously we want some delay and stuff on there. The delay channel on Sylenth is pretty in depth actually. It's a really good delay. The only thing is that, like I said this to you earlier about the dry and wet with the volumes, it suffers from it really badly. As soon as you start to turn it on, hear that? I mean, that's just me flipping over to wet. Like, I mean, you lose like dB upon dB upon dB, so you really have to push the master again afterwards. But I can't really tell you what setting to have the delay on, because it's entirely down to what rhythm you're sort of playing or whatever. So if you're doing one of those triplet kind of rhythm things, quarter notes is always good, eighth notes is good as well. But like basically, the rule I follow is if you're playing on dotted notes, you don't want your delays on dotted notes, because you won't hear them. Because every single time you press it, that's when the delay's coming in. So I try to sort of like bounce them. Like I do them the other way around. So if I'm playing really straight stuff, I'll put my delays on dotted notes, and if I'm playing the stuff that's on, you know, dotted notes, then I'll put the delays on straight times, like eighths or fourths. What I've done here is I've put one on eighths and one on fourths, and then I'm just going to open the spread up a little bit and open the width up a little bit. Then I'm going to push the volume. I tend to always have the volume kind of biting at the yellow, or you know, even higher on the red or whatever, or just biting at it. I won't have it going in there, but you can hear now, like, it's quite fizzy. The delays, you can hear in between each note. That's because we've got it set on straight notes, but I'm playing on dotted notes. And then as far as effects go, the last thing I always put on is reverb. The reverb on here, like, honestly, it's crap, but it's good crap. Like, it's one of the weird things about, like, I always found about, like, keyboard workstation reverbs, like things like the O1 and the M1 and stuff like that. They were fucking terrible, like really, really lousy reverbs, but they had a sound of their own. And now, because so many people use soft synths like Sylenth or whatever, if you're trying to recreate the sound that you're hearing on a record, these are the reverbs that a lot of people are using. They won't turn this reverb off and go, oh, I'm going to put a lexicon on because it sounds better, because they won't know. Like, this is this is their go-to synth. So a lot of the big producers that have this kind of sound will be using the reverb that's built into the thing. So, you know, you straight away you can hear that kind of like fizzy. I mean, it's just not very well worked out mathematically, but that's fine. Like that's kind of what you want. It's really big. It's got the, you know, I'd leave the dampening turned off and stuff on it. I always have it pretty wide. I'm even going to push the wet a little bit up. Again, we'll lose a bit of volume on that. Let's see what we could do with dampening that off slightly. So that's your kind of like trance thing. Now also the compressor that they put on Sylenth, it's not a very good compressor. Like it, you know, because it's an afterthought. It's like, you know, it's the last thing in the chain. But that click that we put in with the using the short decay time and the low sustain, the compressor on here is kind of like, it's designed to kind of do that. Like, so when you actually put the compressor on, it adds bite to the sound. Let's just bring that bass back down a little bit because it's pushing the reverb and making a nasty ring, so we'll take that out. Better. yeah, so basically, I mean, for those of you who do know about compressors, this is going to be a little bit boring for you, but for those of you that don't know about compressors, the way that they work on sounds like this is kind of like opposite to how the envelope works. When you, on an envelope, if you want a quick attack, you have it set right to the bottom. But if you want to put a pluck onto a sound using a compressor, you actually want a slow attack, because the attack on the compressor isn't the attack of the sound, it's how quickly the compressor kicks in after it hears the signal come through it. So when you have the attack set slowly, you play the sound into it, it goes, oh, there's the sound, wait, compress. That will all happen very, very quickly. So if you push the ratio up, and we push the threshold, like, I never remember how this one works. Is it up? Bring that right down. So like basically, you start to put the compressor at threshold at 0, that's at the top, it's not doing anything. I'm going to set a slow attack time, say around about 100 milliseconds, probably a little bit less than that, say 80 milliseconds, and then I'm just going to gradually bring the threshold down until the click becomes pronounced. So now you can hear it's like kind of got a, you can hear the click coming in. So now, when you go to play, you really get the smack on each note. Again, as I say, the compressor on here is not very good, but it's what they use on all the sounds, you know, on the presets and stuff, and it's the presets that people seem to like. So, you know, this is just telling you how to get that sound. And that's basically a quick run through of how to do the classic trance sound. Oh, obviously, yeah, we should probably put a filter on there as well. The filter routing options are really, really simple on here. You select the filter that you want, so we're going to go low pass, and we're also going to put a low pass over here. But then what you can actually do is, to save yourself running everything through two separate filters, you can actually input from both oscillator A and oscillator B into here, and then you can control the filter from this master channel, and that's it. So you can do build up. And there you go, that's how you make the trance noises.